Come to the river, wade in the water, go on under. Come to the river.
Welcome to Down to the River with Pastor Adam from Oglesby Union Church. Down to the River is a fast 5 minutes to drink in some of the living water given to us by Jesus through studying His Word, the Bible. From Oglesby Union Church, here's Pastor Adam.
We have just come through another Holy Week with our worthy observances of Jesus' birth, life, cross, death, tomb, resurrection, ascension, and proclamation to come again. And hopefully you were able to proclaim with many others in a house of worship last Sunday, He is risen indeed. The Christian faith is anchored on the events that happened that first Easter or Resurrection Sunday. And every Sunday, Christians gather to celebrate that the Lord was raised on the dead on the first day of the week. But another rising is needed prior to the general resurrection of the followers of Christ when He comes again. And that needed raising involves you and me. Jesus actually raised 3 people from the dead prior to being raised from the dead Himself. One was a good friend named Lazarus of a town called Bethany. He was in the grave for 4 days before Jesus called out, "Lazarus, come out." Those at the scene objected because they knew there would be a stench by this time, but the dead man came out and was loosed of his grave clothes. Another was the raising of a little girl about 12 years old. She was the only daughter of Jairus and had just died. Jesus came in with the claim that she was not dead, just asleep, and those at the scene objected with their laughter. But in the presence of her mother and father, Peter, James, and John, Jesus' closest disciples, He told her, "Child, get up." And she did and was ready for a meal. The third is the raising of another only child, a son of a widow from the town called Nain. And Jesus arrives just as the funeral procession is at the gate of the town to bury the body outside the city limits. The widowed mother is leading the way, and her only son is lying wrapped in linen on an open stretcher carried by pallbearers behind her. Jesus approaches with his group, and he says 2 seemingly very inappropriate comments at this funeral. He first says to the grieving widowed mother, "Don't weep." Now, you don't say to the grieving family, "Don't weep." You say, "I'm sorry for your loss," or maybe you say nothing, or maybe you weep along with them, but you don't tell them to stop crying. And then Jesus sidesteps her and approaches the open coffin. He touches it and says, "Young man, I tell you, get up." It stops the funeral, as it would in our day, and we'd be calling for security to get rid of this wacko. I mean, who let this guy in? Get him out of here. But this guy is Jesus, and this guy can speak to a living woman leading the procession, and he can speak to the dead man on the stretcher coffin, and both hear him because this guy is God. The dead man sits up, speaks up, and surrenders up to Jesus' leadership back to his mother's side. And with the time I have left, let me take this physical event and relate it to a spiritual event. Spiritually, we are all the dead man on the stretcher. We are all destined for hell because of our sinful nature that we've inherited from the first Adam and his disobedience to God in the Garden of Eden. We are all separated from God, but out of God's great love for us, He made a way for us to live spiritually forever with Him. He sent His one and only Son, Jesus, the second Adam, to interrupt our funeral. And Jesus made Himself known to us, probably numerous times before we recognized His voice. He told us to wake up to Him. So if you know Jesus, meaning He's made Himself known to you, He's waiting for you to sit up and respond to Him. He's waiting for you to speak up, to confess that Jesus is Lord of your life, and He's waiting for you to surrender up to His leadership and instruction over your life. And this is how someone becomes a Christian. Jesus makes it possible by stopping your spiritual funeral. Now join up with others who have done the same. Join us this morning at 10:15 at the Oglesby Union Church for another message from God's Word, the Bible. And I'm Pastor Adam, thanking you for tuning in for another Down to the River, Sunday mornings at 8:25. Our website is ouc.life, and may you receive the blessings of God as you live your life to the glory of Him.
Join Pastor Adam this morning at Oglesby Union Church. They're right next to City Hall on Walnut Street, and their Sunday morning worship service starts at 10:15. Oglesby Union Church's mission is to know Jesus, grow in Him, go where He leads, and show His love. Drink more of the living water from Jesus today at Oglesby Union Church, and go down to the river again next Sunday morning at 8:25 on Classic Hits 103.9 WLPO.